Hey artists! Today we're going to make a textured snowman. So before we get started with drawing our snowman, we need to go on a texture hunt. So we are going to look around our homes and look for different textures. So the way that different things feel. But there are a few textures that really won't work for this project because we are going to be drawing over them and taking the texture and putting it onto our paper. We're going to need textures that are harder or bumpy. So this scarf, for example, is soft and fuzzy. That won't really work for this project. We're going to try to find bumpy textures. Also, my mug that has the smooth texture, it's hard, but it's too smooth. Nothing will show up on my paper. It will all just come up one color. We're looking for bumpy textures so that when we trace over them, they show up on our paper. So look around your homes for things that when you touch them, like this little paper, I feel bumps in it. It's a little bit bumpy because there's parts of it that are grooved down. That is what we are looking for. To start drawing our snowman, I'm going to go to the top of my paper and draw a square for the hat. So just a square towards the top of my paper, leaving room for everything underneath, and then a nice long rectangle to finish the hat. I'm going to draw the nose first before I draw the rest of the face. So for a carrot nose, I drew a curved line and then two angled lines coming out. On each side of the hat, I'll draw a curved line coming down for the sides of the face. And you notice I skipped behind the nose so I didn't go through it. For the scarf, I'll just draw two curved lines with a straight line on top and the bottom. And coming out from the side, I'll do two rectangles with some little lines at the end for the little frayed edges of my scarf. And then from the sides of the scarf to the bottom of the paper, I'll just draw two curved lines that go out like the sides of a circle. And then I'll add in some circle buttons before I start on the arms. For the arms, I'm just going to do two straight lines coming up from each side. And then on the ends, I'm going to draw some mittens. So for a mitten, I'll just do a little hill and then a big hill coming down. So again, I'll draw a straight line first and then a little hill and a big hill for the mitten on the other side. And the last thing we have to draw is the face. So I'll draw a circle for the eye. I like to add a little white dot by drawing another circle in the top and then filling in the rest. So a circle with a little circle inside, and then I color in the rest. And then just adding our mouth in, I'll do some little dots that go in a curve to make the mouth. Now it's time to add our textures. So I went around my home and found things that had bumpy textures, anything that isn't smooth. This first texture I found is really bumpy, and I'm going to put it underneath my paper and then take a crayon to color in just one section of my snowman. So I decided to make this bumpy texture for the nose. So I'm coloring in just over the nose with the texture underneath my paper. I decided I wanted to add some more texture, so I'm going to turn the lines the other way, and then those lines should go up and down, just like they are underneath my paper now. So I have lines going both ways from my textured surface onto my paper. I went around my home and tried to find a different texture for all the different parts of my snowman. So the next one I have is a piece of plastic that has some circles in it. So those circles are going to create a texture when I color over them. So I put them underneath the mittens this time on my paper, and I'm going to watch as those circle textures pop up on my mittens. I'll do it on both of them just to make them match. And now I'm ready to move on to my scarf. So another texture I found around my home were some papers, some patterned paper that has little bumps if I felt on them. It's a little bit of a groove. So when I put my paper on top of the bumpy part of the paper and gently go over with my crayon, the same patterns show up on this paper. As long as the other surface you're using has a little bit of a texture or some bumps to it, it will show up if you put your piece of paper on top and go over it with your crayon. Next, I'll do the buttons. So I got this card in the mail and I realized some parts of it are smooth, but some are bumpy where there's glitter. So I'm going to take the parts that are bumpy and have a texture and put them underneath the buttons on my snowman to watch a snowflake pop up in each one of them. When the texture is small like these snowflakes, it's important to make sure you move your snowman paper to make sure that the bumps or the texture is right underneath where you're coloring. Next up, I used some items that I couldn't move from around my apartment, so I took my paper to them. I have this grate in my apartment that has a really cool texture or pattern on it. When I use my crayon over that, it shows right up on my snowman's hat. The last thing I'm going to add onto my textured snowman is the arms. So I went down to the floor and I noticed that there were bumps in my wood floor. So I took my crayon and I colored over those too to give some texture to my snowman arms. And now, as I finish up, I am all done adding different textures.